All right, good evening, Council. I'd like to call the meeting to order for December 12th. It's a regular council meeting. So we'll call it to order, and we'll start first with a moment of reflection before we get into the rest of our meeting agenda. So we'll start with a moment of reflection now. All right, so starting with approval of the agendas, we have a consent agenda. Anyone wishing to pull an item from the consent agenda? Otherwise, a motion to approve. Councillor Monteith, motion to approve. If there is no further discussion, call to question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Our regular meeting agenda, I've heard of no changes. Well, there's one. I'll have our CEO, Anthony Burdett.
Personnel item to in camera.
Very well. So the third in-camera item, personnel. Any further items? If not, a motion to approve the agenda with the one modification. Councillor Wolstenholme makes that motion. All in favor? Carried. And for the good of council, does anyone have something they wish to share? Councillor Henniger.
Just upcoming this week, I believe, I don't want to butcher it, Sirens of the Season or through the RCMP is happening on the 14th in the evening. So they go around and do their parade, the RCMP and ambulances, and it's going to be a great time. And I think they're doing a toy drive that night. So if you're out and about with your kids, just go outside. They're super loud. 6 till 8 on the 14th.
Somewhere in town.
Somewhere.
Go find them, you'll see them. Any other comments for the good of council? I did want to highlight the Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee Medal that I did attend in Calgary and received with a bunch of other mayors, and so that was good. So it's a medal that I don't know how many there were there, probably 60 other mayors, but a lot that weren't in attendance. So with a little bit of that and a little bit of instructions and how to take care of the medal. So that was appreciated, and thank you for Alberta municipalities for organizing that. Any other thoughts, comments? There's got to be more going on in town right now. CEO Burdett.
Just wanted to mention that the town is still able to receive grants to organizations until December 22nd. So organizations in the town can still submit up to that point. We have a lot of great organizations in our community, a lot of great volunteers, and so if there's something that the town can help out with, we can have the submissions by the 22nd would be great.
Very good. Anyone else have something they wish to share? Seeing none, we will carry on with our agenda package. We'll go down straight to new business, 2022 year-to-date revenue and expenditure report, and we'll ask our Director of Finance, Chris Holbeck, to speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor Fader. Good evening, Council. The year-to-date revenue and expenditure report is brought to Council quarterly. I brought it in September, and it's been another quarter, so it's back on the agenda for just a viewing and a quick conversation. Council will not see the 2020 financial information again until the auditors come with our audited financial statements, probably in April. So I know the mayor always likes to say, how do we do? What do you think? How's it looking? Sometimes I never give a straight answer to that one because the auditors get in there and they make adjustments and changes and stuff. But overall, we had a very positive year for 2022. As you can see, our revenues were pretty close to what we expected, sometimes over, and our expenditures seemed lower than usual in some aspects. So I'm sure we'll be on budget or better than budget when we come down to the audited report. And that's about all I have to say. I'm already thinking about 2023 and budget and things that are going to go on next year. So yeah. If council has any questions or wants to discuss it page by page, if you really want to do that, we can do that too.
All right, any questions from council? Pretty self-explanatory. You got the year-to-date budget, year-to-date actual, year-to-date variance, and then year-to-date percentage variance. So all sums up in the end. Look forward to seeing how the auditors pan out on things once we hit March, April. Yeah, no great highlights. Councillor Monteith, did you have a question?
Is the only adjustment the auditors make to interest? Because you've got amortization taken care of. Is there anything else that would distort this at all?
There may be some deferred revenue and expenses that have to get shown up into the statements, but they would be offsetting. Probably interest is the biggest one. And then those 2 months worth of franchise fees from Fortis and ATCO have to be recorded, and then another month of expenses. And sometimes we have to pull in all those payables and get them in the right cutoff period. So sometimes there's some larger things maybe that get ordered at the end of the year because they know they have a little bit of budget left. But I don't think it's gonna, there won't be anything major, Jim.
Very good, thank you. If there's no other questions, I'd accept a motion to receive the 2022 revenue and expenditure report as information. Councillor Monteith makes that motion. If there's no more questions or discussion, we'll call it to question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on then to our 2023 provisional operating budget, something we've gone through a little bit, and we'll again ask our Director of Finance, Chris Holbeck, to speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor Fader. So this is provisional budget for 2023. It is our budget document that we use until we get the final 2023 operating budget and 3-year forecast completed, and we usually don't get that finished until April after mill rate discussions. So this is our stopgap budget that gets us through to the final budget. We've talked about it. It's pretty tight. We've made the departments do most of the work, and it's a real budget. They have to put some thought into their numbers. The wages are set. There may be some adjustments to wages based on collective bargaining and other things. But most of the departments have gone through and department heads have reviewed it, and managers and directors have reviewed them. So it should be pretty tight. I don't know if there won't be any big scary things that should happen. Usually what I'm waiting for is assessment and council to decide on mill rate and those kind of things, but the expenses are usually pretty bang on by the time we get to this point. So the provisional budget is on the table. I've put some comments on it because we put it out for the public, and they like comments in their budgets. So I like to give some sort of just general comments. And if council has any questions, I would be thrilled to answer them. Otherwise, this will be passed, and then we will deal with the final operating budget in April. Thank you.
All right, perhaps start with a motion from council to approve the 2023 provisional operating budget. Is anyone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Henniger makes that motion. Any discussion for administration? It's a lengthy document, 23 pages, lots of details, some notes, some highlights, some summaries. Thank you for putting it together in this format. Keeps it nice and simple and clean. Any questions from any of the new council members, old council members? I didn't mean that literally. No other questions or comments? Okay, then I will call the motion to question. All in favor? Any opposed? The 2023 provisional operating budget is carried.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Item 3, moving on to 2023 capital budget approval, and we will ask our Director of Operations, Adrian Pedro, to speak to that, to the capital budget.
Good evening, Council. This one is always exciting for me, exciting time of year. Kind of sets out what we're doing in 2023. So you have before you today the 2023 capital budget report. Fairly similar to what we discussed at the Committee of the Whole. I will note, though, that McLeod Landing Phase 1. So we did actually update those numbers this afternoon. So there is a slight increase. So right now we have that listed as $4.4 million. We have adjusted that number a little bit to 4.528, like 4,528,000. And we just looked at some of the conditions on site, and we didn't put a bit of a buffer for some of the utility installation as well. So that's our updated number for that. So tonight we would ask that council make the motion to approve the capital budget as amended, including that value.
Very good. Any other highlights you want to make on the capital budget? I think it's a pretty clean one, but it'd be good to maybe highlight some of the.
Yeah, I mean, McLeod Landing being the largest chunk of the budget. Some exciting things for town would be the gravel road pavement program. That's completely new that the town has not implemented. So 2023 would be the new program for the town there. Yeah, and the rest is pretty much status quo in terms of sidewalks, asphalt, sewer relining program, and just some smaller items and some fleet replacement items. So yeah, pretty lean, I would say, aside from McLeod Landing.
Very good. And then I think the fire truck was carried over, but it's still in this year's capital plan too, right?
Correct. Yep.
So fire pumper number 2, which would replace a truck that's, 20 some years old?
80s. Yeah. So
Yeah.
a little bit older.
I just heard that Crozes Pass got a ladder truck. It's pretty neat. All right. Any other questions? Councilor Monteith?
Just wondering how much of this we're actually gonna spend next year, and maybe for Chris, what do we spend first? The self-financing capital reserve or the debentures?
So we've decided that we'll probably, our debenture draw will come June. So I have to have the application in by April 1st to get a June 15th draw for the debenture. So depending on the starting of that project, it'll probably be reserves first before we see the debenture monies come through. That'll be June 15th.
Thank you.
From an administrative standpoint, how have the annual programs been working? I know we have 3 or 4 of them now, right? Sidewalk, wastewater, asphalt, and now we're just starting on with the gravel to asphalt program. Like, have those been going well?
I would say for the most part, concrete's been going fairly well with that amount. I would say asphalt's probably going to need to be looked at in the next, say, 2 to 3 years, just given commodity prices there. We're not able to do as much as we used to be able to. So, but all in all, I think it's going fine.
Very good. All right, if there's no further question or discussion, is anyone prepared to make a motion on the 2023 capital budget? Councillor Monteith? You get all the fun ones. Motions on the floor. Any further discussion? Discussion, debate, questions, any of that? If not, I will call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? The 2023 capital budget report is approved as presented. Thank you, administration.
Sorry, just as amended.
As amended with the increase, correct? Was that submitted in the Dropbox different or it's,
It was not. It came through
Okay,
about a couple
sorry.
hours ago.
is that a friendly amendment to the motion there, Councillor Monteith? Friendly? Thank you very much. All right, so item 3 under new business is complete. We will move on then to item 4, which is Minister Copying Volunteer Fire Department, and we'll have our CAO, Anthony Burdett, speak to this item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you see in your agendas, in your packages there was a letter addressed to the town from Ponoka and addressed to the Honorable Jason Copping about the current state of, in particular, the ambulances in our province. And they relate a number of stories and instances in their community that have really demonstrated the stress on their volunteer firefighters and the difficulty that it's been to be waiting for dispatch. And I'll just read a part of it here at the last section, just to kind of hit it home. It says, in the last year, our volunteer fire department has been the first to arrive on the scene on a medical event 18 times. They do this for the love of their community and are not being paid. I would say that for them, money is not the issue. What is the issue is that after they have been faced with trauma of a catastrophic medical event, they then have to go back to their real jobs the following day. So I put it to you that while we are trying to somehow figure out our way around this ambulance crisis, we are doing it on the backs of our rural volunteer firefighters. I represent a rural municipality, and I'm telling you what I see, that my friends, neighbors, and fellow citizens are being put at risk on a daily basis because we can't figure out this ambulance thing. We're running out of time, and something needs to be done, not only for our cities, but for our rural communities as well. So, I mean, if council feels so that in support of this current situation, the town could add our voice to this letter and support Ponoka's council letter to Minister Copping regarding the volunteer fire department and the struggles that it's causing.
Very good. I definitely have no problem writing a letter. I just think we need to add our own language to it, our own experience, because I know we do have some. I'm probably not privy to all the situations, but it would be interesting to know what Fort McLeod's experience is with medical events and how we've been responding to those. And in the letter, I don't really see an ask, right? It's basically stating their experience. So I think it's good probably not to put an ask, because I don't know that what we would ask for. I do agree with that, but there's no financial ask. There's not like, can we at least support our local fire departments some more with some extra funding? And I don't know that that's something we'd be interested or need to ask, but it doesn't, in some ways, if we're carrying that weight of the workload, why wouldn't we make that ask?
The problem is that with this type of thing, you don't know you need it till you get a problem. And then, what do? I mean, I've seen enough concern from other communities that I don't think we should be oblivious to it. I mean, I don't know what our situation is either, but I know when you talk, you look at articles in the Okotoks paper, they're without ambulances because they get called into Calgary. And I know when they send ambulances up to Calgary, they get called into use when they're up there. So, I mean, it seems pretty simple to me how to, not necessarily how to solve it, but do something to solve it. But all they seem to do is throw their hands up and say, it's okay, there's no problem. But there is a problem.
Yeah, I think it'd be crazy to think that they don't think there's a problem. It's just how you fix it when you have limited people and equipment, perhaps. But there's got to be a way to fix it. It's how do we get the people around the table to figure it out, right? So I think some of the tone of the letter should be what can we as a community to do? Because I think we have the resources, we have some of the equipment that they're looking for. It's just how can we use it in a more proactive way? Any other comments? No other comments from council? Anything else you'd like to see in the letter? Councillor Hanniger?
So I guess is that ask then, Anthony, for you to reach out to the fire department and ask them what their struggles are? We just have outstanding firefighters and they respond. And our family personally had to utilize them a few weeks ago and you couldn't do what they do. Like they're amazing. So I do think it's worth the ask of asking their struggles, that what we see, and they are facing it's always the motor vehicle accidents on the highways or the train derailment, like they are there. So I think asking them, and I agree with Brent and just the fact of we don't know the issues personally ourselves. We're not the frontline workers, or we might know our frontline workers. So would be worth the ask to them specifically.
Well, is anyone prepared to make a motion to that end, that a letter be drafted, forwarded to Mr. Copping, and address some of the concerns that our community has? Councillor Fox, anything else you'd like in that motion? Very good. All right, is that clear for you, CEO Burdette? That's a clear enough motion? So to draft and forward a letter to Mr. Copping for his regarding volunteer fire department's involvement in medical emergencies. If that is good with council, we'll call the motion to question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried to forward a letter to Minister Copping regarding the use of volunteer fire department in medical emergencies. And that then does conclude the public portion of our meeting tonight. It was a very short meeting. We do have three items for in camera. So I'll request a motion from council to go in camera for those three.
Can I ask a question? The letter regarding ambulance service is very similar to the letter in the consent agenda. And it looks to me like you can give them facts, you can give them what you think, but they don't really take what you say into account. They just do what they think is right. And I don't quite understand the logic of it, but I just thought I would point that out, that there's some consistency in performance here.
Very well. Was that a question? That was an extra comment. Very good. Thank you for that. So motion from council to go in camera, please, for three items. Councillor Henniger makes a motion. Call to question. All in favor? Any opposed?